During Jim Crow, Pepsi had the courage to do what other retailers wouldn't. They hired an entirely black sales team and put black folks in their ads. Their sales, of course, soared, and there was an inevitable backlash. So how did this nickel soda turn into a quiet powerhouse, and who attempted to sabotage it from the inside? This is the story of how Pepsi became the black soda. I'm your host, Country Boy. This is One Mic Black History. If you like stories like this, you can find more stories like this at onemichistory.com. Without further ado, though, let's get started. Under Jim Crow, the simple act of getting a soda could be a reminder of your place. Many lunch counters and soda fountains were segregated or refused to serve black customers. Ads in mainstream media rarely showed black people as human beings. If they were pictured at all, it was often as servants, comic relief, or nothing. Brands chased white buyers and pretended like black buyers didn't exist. During this time, Coca-Cola was king, and it was everywhere in white spaces. It had an image of the all-American drink, which basically meant white. Hiring, especially those in customer-facing roles, followed the same pattern. Doors open for white folks and closed for black folks. So imagine the landscape, and then imagine seeing a Pepsi ad that basically said that black families belonged to the American dream, too. But let's rewind for a moment on Pepsi itself. Their story starts in 1893, when a North Carolina pharmacist named Caleb Bradham mixed a sweet, fizzy digestive that he called Brad's drink. Sugar, vanilla, and cola nut. They were simple ingredients for a busy drugstore counter. In 1898, he renamed it Pepsi Cola, leaning into its supposed benefits as a dyspepsia, which was basically indigestion. Some people thought the name was a nod to pepsin, which is a digestive enzyme, although pepsin was not actually in the bottle. By 1902, Bradham incorporated Pepsi Cola Company and pushed bottling and distribution. Sales climbed to nearly 20,000 gallons by 1904, and the early ads promised to be delicious and helpful. By 1909, it was even being pushed by celebrities like race car legend Barney Oldfield, giving it some star power. But the business was rocky, and after World War I, sugar prices swung wildly. Pepsi went bankrupt in 1923 and again in 1931. That was when Charles Guth, the president of Loth, the candy company, took over the trademarks, reformulating the drink, and made a simple Great Depression bet. A big 12-ounce bottle of Pepsi for a nickel, the same price that you would pay for a 6-ounce Coke. And it worked. Profits doubled between 1936 and 1938, and the value of Pepsi did the same. And this focus on values set the stage for our story. In the 1940s, Pepsi's president, Walter Mack, saw a market that others ignored: black consumers. He knew that loyalty comes with respect, and respect starts with how you are pictured. So in 1947, he hired Edward F. Boyd to lead an all-black national sales team. That alone was extraordinary for a major brand in Jim Crow America. Their job wasn't just to move cases, it was to move an image. They went to the community where we lived and gathered: church basements, college campuses, civic clubs, business leagues, barbershops, jazz halls. They spoke at NAACP meetings, and they bought ads in the black press. They put real black people in ads with dignity. Their signature move was the Leaders of the Field campaign. Instead of minstrel characters, you saw black professionals and pastors, nurses, owners, students, black people of excellence who needed no translation. They highlighted towering figures like Ralph Bunche, a diplomat who would go on to win the Nobel Peace Prize. The message was simple and radical at the same time. Here is who we are, here is the life we lead, and yes, we drink Pepsi too. But this wasn't corporate charity. It was a profit-driven strategy with a moral edge. By respecting consumers, Pepsi gained a base that Coke had never bothered to court. Business historians from the period note that in the early 1950s, black soft drink buyers were 3 times as likely to choose Pepsi than Coke. Representation mattered, and it turned into receipts. Boyd's team did the slow, smart work that makes a campaign real. They built their own photo archives of Black families and professionals so that the art department couldn't hide behind "we don't have those images." They recruited endorsements from cultural giants like Duke Ellington because jazz bands reached audiences that Madison Avenue ignored. They trained store owners on how to sell to Black customers, not as an afterthought, but as a priority. All this is well and good, but this is Jim Crow America, and all of this came with a cost. The Pepsi team traveled the country built to humiliate them. They stayed in segregated hotels and restaurants, colleagues who wouldn't ride with them in the same car. Some store owners slammed doors in their face. Some threatened violence. The Ku Klux Klan was not a distant rumor on these highways. Additionally, inside the boardroom, the pushback got coded and not so coded. As Pepsi's Black sales surged, whispers started. If Pepsi is their drink, will white buyers walk away? And in some places it did. White shoppers and competing salesmen often sneered at Pepsi, labeling it as the Negro drink. So as the team leaned into this, they went big into the Black press like Ebony and Amsterdam News, while keeping mainstream placements carefully bland to avoid panicking retailers. And they kept receipts, numbers that proved that Black dollars, when respected, were loyal and strong. So what happened? Well, Walter Mack left Pepsi in 1950, and without his cover, support for the dedicated Black sales team faded. Executives feared being too associated with Black buyers in a segregated marketplace. The team was cut back and eventually eliminated. The very success that proved that Black consumers mattered also triggered corporate nervousness about a white backlash. And yet, the work changed Pepsi from the inside. One of those team members, Harvey C. Russell Jr., rose through the ranks and in 1962 became the first Black vice president of a major U.S. corporation. And that's not a neat ending, it's a contradiction. And this is the world that we live in. Life as a bit of a contradiction, a real representation and career breakthroughs alongside a corporate retreat against Black people. And once again, like the other stories that we've told in this channel, Pepsi was not your savior. They were not here to end Jim Crow. This was a solely profit-driven endeavor. The lesson here is that Black consumers leveraged the power that we had, our choice, our press, our institution, to force a Fortune 500 company to see us. And Pepsi answered that call, partially out of principle, but largely out of profit. Both can be true. And when ads finally picture Black people with dignity, it did something for this country and made the lie of Jim Crow that much harder to sell. Thank you. I'm your host, Country Boy. This has been One Mic Black History. I'd like to thank all my subscribers. If you like stories like this, you can find more stories like this at onemichistory.com. I'd like to thank all my day ones and my financial contributors. Without you, none of this could be possible. I love you all. Let me know down in the comments whether or not you grew up in a Pepsi or Coke household. Do your parents before Pepsi, do they remember it as the Black drink? I'm not going to lie to you. I am partial to a cherry Coke, but I will drink Pepsi. As a dedicated soda drinker, I will drink a Pepsi. But thank you guys for coming out. I love you all. Peace.